this line. Jerry's best friend is going to get this. And played it in the room. Everybody laughed. They said, great, thanks. Larry shook my hand. Jerry shook my hand. Whoever else was there shook my hand. I got directly into a car, went right back to the airport. And I think by the time I landed back in New York, there was a call waiting that said they want to hire you. So I can't believe you're bringing in an extra bed for a woman that wants to sleep with you. Why don't you bring in an extra guy, too?
Look, it's a very awkward situation. I don't want to be presumptuous.
All right. One more time. What was the exact phrasing of the request?
She said she couldn't find a decent hotel room.
A decent hotel room?
Would it be terribly inconvenient if she stayed at my place?
You can't be serious. This is New York City. There must be 11 million decent hotel rooms. What do you need, a flag? This is the signal, Jerry. This is the signal.
Initially in the pilot, the character of Kramer was called Kessler. I was living in New York at the time, and I had a next-door neighbor who was a bit of an eccentric fellow named Kenny Kramer, who was always coming into my apartment and just always prevailing upon me to do things I didn't want to do. And he was a little overbearing at times, but very lovable and funny.
And we started hanging out, and we became very good friends. I mean, best friends. It's, and it's unlikely for us two guys to be such good friends because we're very different kinds of people. I'm an outgoing, fun-loving, ready-to-party kind of guy. And, this is George Costanza.
And he always had a lot of women there, and things were always happening in his apartment. It was sort of like the mecca of the building. And I thought this would be a good character also for the show. You could live next door to this Kramer fellow.
Yeah, as he came in as an actual real-life wacky neighbor.
Jerry, I think, at first thought, oh, well, that's too cliche, the wacky neighbor, but I knew this guy very well, and I thought I could write this character.
One day Larry comes in and says to me, Kramer, Seinfeld asked me to write this pilot with him, and I think I'm going to do it, but you know what? I'd like to base a character on you and call him Kramer. Is that okay? And I said, certainly it's okay, as long as I get to play Kramer. And he says, you can't be Kramer. And I said, but I am Kramer.
And one of the characters will be based on you.
No, I don't think so.
What do you mean you don't think so?
I don't like it.
I don't understand what the big deal is.
Okay, I'll tell you what. You can do it on one condition.
Whatever you want.
I get to play Kramer.
You can't play Kramer.
I am Kramer.
But you can't act.
I still didn't want to call him Kramer because I knew my real neighbor Kramer. And I knew that by calling this character Kramer, it was going to open up a can of worms that I didn't really want to get involved in.
Larry was positive and correctly predicted that if we involve Kenny Kramer in any way in this show, he will exploit it to the maximum and become a complete pain, which of course he did. He's actually, I think, a great guy and a funny guy. But that name just had something that no other name had.
Jerry liked the name Kramer so much, he got so attached to this name. And also, don't forget, while we were working on the first couple of shows in my apartment, which was right next door to Kramer's, and we worked in my apartment, Kramer was coming in while we were working.
I'd be on the phone with Jerry. They'd be writing in Larry David's apartment, and Jerry would say, shh, shh, the real Kramer just came in. And then Jerry would tell me what the real Kramer was doing. He's going to the kitchen, he's searching through, he got something. Okay, he left.
And I eventually prevailed on Larry, said, we have to change it to Kramer. There's no other name. There's something in that name that just rings true.
Kramer eventually started calling the Castle Rock Legal Department and said, listen, if you're going to use this name, and he gave a whole list of things demands that he wanted, including some financial demands, and he got everything he wanted.
For the character that was called Kessler at the time, when we made the pilot, they were very interested in Michael Richards.
He was one of those very special, very rare talents that I had seen in my years in the business, and I thought if he's available, that guy's, he's one of those real Midas touch guys.
Michael Richards had been on Fridays. We had both been on Fridays together.
He used to go on Jay Leno those years as a fitness expert, and he would come out with black socks and shorts and smoking and attempt to operate some sort of exercise machine.
Would you please welcome Hollywood's top fitness trainer, Dick Williams. Ladies and gentlemen, Dick Williams. How are you, Dick? Now, what are we going to be doing here? Oh, watch yourself. Are you all right? Oh, watch it. Hang on. No, wait a minute. I'll tell you, Dick. Maybe we should do this another time when
Larry actually preferred another guy.
I knew the real Kramer, and I was trying to match up the real Kramer in my head. And Michael, as funny as he is, wasn't quite matching the way that I had seen the match.
But I was a big Michael Richards fan.
So Jerry said, no, it's got to be Michael. And I said, okay. And boy, was he right about that one.
NBC had some sort of a function at the Century Plaza Hotel, and Brandon Tartikoff was pressed for time.
So the casting for Kramer took place at the Century Plaza Hotel.
I was standing in the lobby with people walking by, talking to myself, going over the lines, and they just saw me and went, well, those people in Hollywood are crazy.
He came in and did a great reading.
I wasn't quite sure exactly how the character was going to go. I had to kind of get in there with Jerry and feel Jerry and so forth. I know that we had a chemistry. I felt a connection to Jerry.
But it was very, very different than was on the page. He really couldn't help but sort of explode into the room.
And he was just such an odd, offbeat, and truly funny character.
You know, the thing about it is Larry never stayed in the room during the audition. He would listen to me through the door because he felt it would throw me. That was a very considerate move on his part, you know.
Everything that he said in the audition got screams.
And I think at one point in the middle of the scene, I got up and went over and opened up the door, and he was standing there, and I go, "You're really throwing me. I know you're behind this door, and it's really messing up my audition." And he's...
And after he did it, he leaned forward and did a handstand. And then stood up and walked out of the room, and everyone was very perplexed.
Brandon Tartikoff was the president of NBC, looked at everybody in the room and said, well, if you want funny. So.
I thought I wasn't allowed to be in here this weekend.
No, it's okay now. That girl's not coming. I misread the whole thing.
You want me to talk to her?
I don't think so.
No, I can be very persuasive. You know that I was almost a lawyer?
That close, huh?
You better believe it.
The fourth regular in the pilot ultimately was played by an actress named Lee Garlington. And she played the role of Claire, who was a waitress at the coffee shop.
Claire, you're a woman, right?
What gave it away, George?
I came out for the filming of the pilot, and we had a director and an executive producer. But I was there. I was on the floor watching, somewhat neutered.
I just could sense that Larry was unhappy about things. I think he felt out of the loop with the director. That's one thing about it. I knew when Larry was...
I remember seeing stuff that just wasn't really right. And I would gingerly approach the director. After all, there's a director. And, in my most tactful, delicate way, I would say, I was just kind of thinking, and I'm just trying to get this out, and I'd get, yes, well, okay, we'll try that, or I don't think so. And I remember thinking, jeez, how the hell am I going to, this thing is not going to be any good. What am I going to,
I remember thinking, boy, this really worked pretty well. We did 2 shows, right? I think we had a show, and then there was a dinner. We ate. And then we did another show, and I think it's the only time we ever did 2 shows in one night.
Yeah, I remember saying goodbye to you and thinking that I wouldn't see you again for another couple of years.
During the filming, Jerry said, so, Mr. Experience, what do you think? I said, no way, Jerry. There's no way. He said, why? I said, I think the #1 show in America right now is Alf. If that's the #1 show in America, who's going to watch this? The audience for this show is me, and I don't watch TV.
We delivered the pilot to NBC. We thought it turned out very well. We all liked it around the office.
I was hopeful that the Seinfeld Chronicles could actually make the fall schedule.
And we'd heard that it was well received when they screened it for the executives at NBC. But then we heard the testing had come in, and I've heard this so many times in the past.
Research can be a very, very brutal day. Many of your hopes and dreams, your favorite children, turn to crap, and Seinfeld was no exception.